So there are basically three areas of work inside the OGF. You have the standards activities. This is certainly the cornerstone of OGF. It's a standards defining body, and the idea is to develop and document standards with the community. So OGF is, in a sense, an army of voluntary people. It's a community effort. OGF itself does not have people, personnel to develop the standards. You can't go to OGF and say, hey, I have a need for a standard here and there, can you please develop it? What OGF gives you is a framework and a procedure so that your community can come together and actually develop a standard. And we provide the document process and all that and support actually this process, but the work will have to come from the community. We have then the community pillar. This is for more informal discussions, really trying to build communities around particular use cases and trying to identify where eventually standards work can actually start. And then we do workshops and forums. This is really the first step where we try to engage communities, like we do here with this series of workshops on digital repositories. Drilling a little bit down into the standards function, how this whole thing works. So the building blocks of standards is the standards groups. So you have the groups that come together and say, I want to develop a standard in a particular area, and you typically have chairs that are leading this group. The different groups are then clustered in areas to consolidate groups of similar focus. And you see the areas on the slides where we have compute area, infrastructure, security, architecture, application, management, and so forth. And there's also the data area. So in the data area, we try to cluster all data-related activities inside the OGF, try to harmonize that and see where we can go further. And the overall standards organization is being coordinated by the Standards Council. So there's the Vice President of Standards, which at the moment is Chris Smith from Platform Computing. You have all the area directors in, and so forth. So this is the governing body for the standards area that really tries to coordinate all the activities that are going on, try to identify what should be the next focal area for standards, and so forth. Looking a bit in detail at what the data area really is doing, so this slide lists all the different groups that we have together with the main outcomes. So you have this cryptic GFD number thingy there. This is really the outcome of OGF. That's an official OGF document. So GFD stands for Grid Forum Document, and then you have a number. So these are proposed recommendations or recommendations that the OGF produced and that can be taken up by others. So in the data area, we really deal with two sources of data. We have unstructured data, basically files that sit on disk or tape, and we have structured data, which essentially sit in databases. And we have a set of activities on how to manage these data sources, how to manage the access and the transport to it. So just to name a few, we have the SRM for storage management, really tries to specify how you manage storage for unstructured data, disk and tape storage. We have data transport, which is Grid FTP. We have access to data, Byte.io. We have access to structured data, to databases. This is the DICE set of standards dealing with relational databases, XML databases, and now looking into RDF. And we have higher level things like data movement and also data naming. So how you name it, data, where you find data, and so forth. And we have then other activities like how you do secure information or reliable information dissemination, how you can actually describe a data format, and we have a liaison with the storage network community. It's basically the hardware vendors, people from this NIA community, and so forth. What I believe is really important work for the digital repository community and where we could actually have lots of interactions are this storage resource manager specification, which that provides location-independent storage access and homogeneous access to heterogeneous storage systems. We have the overall OXA data architecture that provides an overall view on what are the actors, what are the interdependencies, what are the actions between different actors in a data architecture. So that's also worth looking into and see what we can learn from the digital repositories and how we can work together on certain aspects here. And we have in OGF the GIN group, as a Grid Interoperability Now group, that is working on interoperability issues between existing grid infrastructures. And there's a lot of interest also on data in this, and the digital repository community certainly is also very interested to that. Other related standards are being developed, for instance, by the Storage Network Industry Association, SNIA. There is one standard that's XAM, the Extensible Access Method. That's in a sense a standard way of storing metadata with data on a storage system. So that's a standard that is potentially quite interesting to the digital repositories community. We have the Open Archival Information System, OAIS, from the ISO, which is basically a reference model for specifying archive systems. So there's a lot of activities going on in the data area, and I think this can now become quite interesting for digital repositories, because with the rise of the cloud computing model, but also general the idea to build federated digital repositories, the digital repositories community is starting to move into a grid-like model and starting to experience the same problem that we're trying to solve in the more in a more grid-like setting, which is a heterogeneous infrastructure. You have multiple domains of control. You need to interact with existing security, authentication, monitoring, management systems. And so if you really want to interoperate, the development of standards is of utmost importance in this field. So that's why I think it's very timely that we have this series of workshops. I Dick already told you that this is now the third one of a series that started back in OGF23 in Barcelona. And the goal for today really should be to try to synthesize the results of these previous two workshops. We should try to identify what are the gaps that the digital repositories community see at the moment, and where out of these gaps are the opportunities for collaborative work across communities, so that eventually we can identify whether there is a place where OGF actually could help, and we could create a working group or a research group or a community group. There are different ways of doing that inside OGF. That would be very interesting to OGF in the data area particularly. So we should try to use the coming hours this afternoon to try to identify, is there enough interest to do something along these lines, and can we take it further?